Yankees do the unthinkable. They sweep the Houston Astros. Definitely did not see this coming. And it's a change in momentum as far as the young kids really getting the call. And Jasson Domínguez is really the headliner here as he homers in his first at-bat. His first swing in his major league career is deposited for an opposite field home run off of Justin Verlander. And he would hit the big blow in the third game to give the Yankees the sweep. He homered off of Christian Javier in that one as well. And not to mention, Austin Wells caught all three games, did a great job with the pitching staff. The Astros, combined scored, 7 runs in the 3 games? And Wells did a really nice job. He even contributed an RBI double in the third game. He had a pretty big sac fly as well in game 2. And he got a hit in his first at-bat. So, Yankees, look, this was their best series of the season. I'm thinking about it. This was their best. I mean, it was only their 4th sweep of the season. But let's think about the other 3. 2 of them, home against Oakland, home against Kansas City. I mean, those are your easiest combination of series you could have, and they got those sweeps. And then it was at Cincinnati, but that was before Cincinnati, kind of called up all their prospects. It was a different time. Now, still, you look at that, and that's, I'm not going to just shake that off, but still, this is by far the Yankees' best series of the season. And it's just very bittersweet in many ways that now the Yankees beat the Astros. When for the Yankees, it doesn't matter in the standings. Now, the good thing is, it's always nice to see the Astros. To put them in a tough spot is never a bad thing. And for them, this is an extremely important series. They are battling it out, not only for the AL West, but just to make the playoffs. Now, look, everything is still right in front of the Astros. You have Texas, who's been struggling a lot lately. The Mariners lost a series to the Mets over the weekend. So for the Astros, as bad as it was, they still leave this series with total control of their own destiny. But still, if you look back, at the end of the season, if they don't win the division, you can certainly look back at this series and at least be happy about the fact that you played a role in the Astros not winning the division, which is very important. With this format and the way that things are laying out in the American League, this was absolutely crucial for the Astros, and they really did nothing. Game 2 was very close. I mean, look, Game 1 the Yankees had, I'd say, pretty handily. Game 2 was close, and the Yankees won. And Game 3, look, of course it was close, but, once the Yankees took that lead, they really ran with it. So, a lot of good stuff to talk about. Again, going into this series, I was rooting against the Yankees. I fully admitted that, fully said that, and, but I'm seeing, and by the end of this series, by the time Game 3 rolled around, I was rooting for the Yanks. And don't get me wrong, I am, the kids, 100% rooting for them. I mean, I was so happy. When Dominguez homered in his first at-bat, I was so happy. So, don't get me wrong, it's not, I'm rooting for them, I think, in the right places and rooting against them in the right places as well. But you just look at the team and you look at the lineup and there's just more likable guys. I mean, just simply put, there's just more guys to root for. Whereas before it was tough and it was stale and it just makes you think, should they have done this sooner? It's on the table, right? And I'm sure they have their reasons, but, I think they should have probably gone youth movement earlier. Certainly a month earlier. I think once they decided to do nothing at the deadline, that could have been a good time to do it. Again, I understand why they wouldn't have. I don't agree with it, but I can understand the reasons. But look, there's just improvements. And it's improvements on the field, and it's improvements within the locker, within the clubhouse. You can just tell it. And maybe, I was skeptical about this, and I still am. Maybe this does have 2016 feels to it. I don't think where Dominguez is the Sanchez in this situation. But I just... that 16 felt really good. Now, maybe if 17 didn't go as well as it did, maybe you look back at 16 differently. That's fair, right? Where if 17 was kind of just a nothing sort of season, maybe you look back at 16 and say, yeah. But I think Yankee fans, we look back at that fondly, and so you're hoping somehow that this can be like that. And we'll see. There's 25 games to go, a lot of time left, but the energy has changed. I don't want Cashman off the hook. I don't want Boone off the hook. So that's what makes this tough. But yeah, moving forward, my opinions have changed. I'll say this. The Yankees are kind of in no man's land, which isn't a fun place to be as a fan. But if you can kind of just, if you can put all your negative thoughts aside, you're in an okay place. But again, like, Yankees aren't going to make the playoffs, right? Like, it's just not happening. Barring something completely unforeseen, that ain't happening. And, it just seems like they're headed in a direction where, there will be positive feelings leaving the season. Again, that's not a bad thing. But I still think that there's a lot of questions that need to be answered. Big time. But let's enjoy this Astros series because, again, never thought it would have happened. The Yankees ended up going 7-3 on the road trip. We talked about this after the National Series. I thought 3-7 was a distinct possibility. I thought at best 4-6. I couldn't have been more wrong. And, they lost 2 out of 3 of the Rays, which was kind of, par for the course. But then they go 6-1 this week versus the Tigers and the Astros. Just something I did not see coming. And it just shows you how long a baseball season can be. Not in the playoff sense, but in the fact that it looked like kind of last place looked like it was definitely going to be last place. And I'll still say that I think that it's the likely outcome. But with the 4-game set versus the Red Sox, that's not completely over. But forgetting about that, the over 500, under 500 thing, I thought, okay, this is going to be the year that it ends. And now here we are, 1 game under 500 with 25 games to go. So that streak could continue. Now, whether we want that streak to continue or not, I'm very much back and forth on. If the roster stayed the way that it had been, I definitely would have said lose. But with the kids, it's just a different... It's a lot harder to root against them. It just is. So anyway, Yankees Astros housekeeping. Randy Vasquez ended up being that pitcher. Remember, I don't even think I brought him up. Actually, not that it's I should have. But I remember I was bringing up, Marinaccio, Greg Weissert. Weissert was called up by the end of the series, but it's Vasquez who got the call and actually did pitch in Game 1. Also, Ian Hamilton was warming up in Game 2, and he pulled his groin again. So similar to what we saw. Now, we didn't see it on TV, but I did see him warming up, and then I thought it was strange because then all of a sudden Johnny Brito came in the game, and the reason for that is that Hamilton's on the IL. They're hoping that he'll be back before the end of the season. We'll see, right? I mean, there's time, but not that much time, and so Greg Weissert is called up in place of Hamilton. So, now the Yankees have a 28-man roster. So Game 1, Carlos Rodon versus Justin Verlander, and the Yankees got to Verlander, which they don't normally do. And it's not to say that Justin Verlander always looks good versus the Yanks. Sometimes I think they let him off the hook. Here, the Yankees hit 4 homers, 4 homers against Justin Verlander. DJ to start it out, Domínguez, Stanton, and Judge. And Carlos Rodon was pretty good. Yeah, 5 innings, 2 runs. It's not amazing, but it was a nice outing for him. I think for me, this was one of my more preferred Rodon outings in a while. More so than the Ray one, even though I know there was a lot of good there. More so than the National one as well. So I think that this was definitely a quality outing for Rodon. And again, it says a lot about Austin Wells. Austin Wells playing all 3 games. So here's what I think the plan is going to be. I think Rortved's going to continue to catch Cole. I think Higashioka will be in versus lefties. And then everything else is going to be, so versus righties in non-Cole games, I think it's going to be Austin Wells. And that's good. He will get a good amount of playing time within that. Maybe, he'll get the odd DH day, right? When you have a Rortved or a or Higashioka behind. Oh, no, not Higashioka. Sorry. They might sit him versus lefties. But in a situation, that presents itself where you're versus a righty and Cole's them out, maybe Wells does get the odd DH day. But also of note, Gleyber Torres, who returned for Game 3 of the series, was a late scratch for Game 1. Bit of a back issue for Gleyber. And so he did not play the first and second game, which led to, in the Connor Falefa was sort of the beneficiary of that in game one, and then Oswaldo Cabrera benefited from Gleyber being out in game two. And so Peraza bounced around a bit in this series between second and third. Pereira played left field, strictly left field. And for Pereira, I think that there's struggles there. And look, let him play the rest of the way. Don't get me wrong. But if I'm looking at it objectively, Pereira's definitely got some work to do. Was very impressed by Domínguez and Wells. And Domínguez is the story here. We're going to talk more about Jasson Domínguez, the Martian. So, DJ starts that with a homer. Opposite field homer. Very reminiscent of the home run off of Osuna in Game 6 against the Astros in 2019. Same sort of part of the field at Minute Maid Park. Opposite field homer. And if I didn't mention earlier, this is the Yankees' first 3-game sweep versus the Astros since 2013. The last series of that season, the one, Andy Pettit, his last start in his Major League career, a complete game, actually. I don't remember if it was a complete game shutout, but it was a complete game win. That much I remember. And so, yeah, it's been a long time. And the Astros, that was kind of the end of the Astros not being good. I think J.D. Martinez might have been on the Astros at that point. So, yeah, they were not a good team then. But LeMahieu with a leadoff homer, and then you get a 2-out walk by Stanton off of Verlander, then Jasson Domínguez. His first swing, second pitch. The first pitch he took for a strike. Second pitch deposits it. Opposite field homer off of Verlander, 3-0 Yankees. What a way to start. And, you think about, in my fandom, I think that there were 4 others. Marcus Timms the most really similar to this in a lot of ways was Marcus Timms off of Randy Johnson. First pitch, I think, in 2002. And that was off, and Johnson had been the reigning Cy Young winner, as was Verlander. So, small company there with Timms and Domínguez. Andy Phillips, I think, had a late season. I think it was at Fenway Park. I think it was a blowout game in September call-up situation. Phillips must have been probably 2004, 2005, one of those 2 seasons. I can't remember which one. That wasn't as memorable. But then the more memorable one, 2016, back-to-back homers for Tyler Austin and Aaron Judge against the Tampa Bay Rays in their first at-bats. So, hey, it's special company. And Domínguez is one of 4 Yanks, most recently Aaron Judge, to hit 2 homers in their first 3 games of their Major League career as Yankees. I think that's what the stat was. And Yogi Berra was on that list as well. So anyway, Domínguez makes it 3-0 in the first inning. Jose Altuve gets hurt. Fouls the ball off his leg, I believe, and it would leave the game. He would finish the at-bat, but leave the game. He would return. He didn't play game 2, but he would play game 3. Mauricio Dubon replaces him. And then Austin Wells gets a single in his first at-bat of his Major League career. So, that should not be forgotten. Then Jose Abreu homers off for Rodon in the second to cut the Yankee lead to 3-1. Then in the third, you get an Aaron Judge leadoff single, and then Giancarlo Stanton, a very, very Stantonian blast, 433 feet, just a missile. But, a little bit more height to this one, so maybe not so Stantonian. I guess those are more line drives. This was just a mammoth shot. His 21st homer of the season gives the Yanks a 5-1 lead. In the third, you get a 2-out RBI double by Kyle Tucker to make it 5-2. In terms of Domínguez's defensive center, fine. Wasn't really tested a whole lot, but looked fine out there. So, again, it's just funny how, you go from Bader to Domínguez, and, you would think that defensively you'll take a hit, but offensively it seems like you're definitely improving. So, 5-2. Then in the, 5th inning, with Verlander still in there, Aaron Judge hits his 30th homer of the season and his 250th homer of his career. So he's the fastest in game, not age, in games played. I think Ryan Howard had been the fastest. Judge breaks that by a good amount, by I think 40 games. 250, and it's his 30th homer of the season. If he hadn't gotten hurt, he honestly would have threatened last season. I mean, I don't think he would have gotten there just because it's so tough, but he would have really been. If he didn't get hurt, he's definitely at least hitting 50 home runs. And that's probably being conservative. So the Yankees make it 6-2 there. That would actually be your final score. So Rodon goes 5, like I said. In the 6th, Randy Vasquez comes on and does a pretty nice job. Randy Vasquez goes 2 innings and picks 1 hit, 2 strikeouts. There was a hit by pitch. Yordan Alvarez got hit a couple times in this game, but nice job by Randy Vasquez, who, again, has impressed in the majors. Wandy Peralta comes in the 8th. Does allow a walk to Yordan Alvarez, but gets a couple of outs. Then Jonathan Loaizaga gets the final 4 outs of this game. And Loaizaga, again, has been really, really sharp. Very, very good since he returned. And, yeah, so the Yankees win it 6-2. In a very impressive debut for Domínguez and Wells and just a lot of good stuff there. So we go to Game 2. Game 2 was the closest of the 3 games. And it was a matchup between Luis Severino and Hunter Brown. And this was a rematch of a game that was played at Yankee Stadium earlier in the season, a game in which the Astros won. In this one, the Yankees do take the early lead. Like I said, Glaber remains out. I should have mentioned that Volpe was in the 3 spot in Game 1. Domínguez batted 5th. In Game 2, Domínguez already up to the 3 hole. So he's kind of in that Rizzo spot, if you will. You got LeMahieu, Judge, Domínguez, and, Stanton in the 4 hole, and then, just a bunch of kids. And then, I'm sure every now and then you'll see kind of Falefa. Every now and then maybe you'll see Bowers, although I don't think it'll be very, very frequent. But, you get the point. So, Yankees, like I said, take the lead in the 2nd. You got a Stanton single, Volpe walk. And then after a Wells strikeout, Everson Pereira walks. So it's bases loaded, 1 out, and Oswald Peraza singles. And Oswald Peraza, it's a 3-hit game for Peraza. He also got an RBI double in the 3rd game. So good to see Peraza, who really, the season stats are not very pretty. They are not. He does not have a good, there's nothing. There's no homers. The batting average is low. But, look, he's got good defense, provides good speed, and there is I think the bat is there. I think that Oswald Peraza, has the capabilities of being a solid major league contributor. So he gets an RBI single, makes it 1-0, and then you get a base hit up by Oswaldo Cabrera. And I think Cabrera has been better lately, and I think deserves to get some run. Because again, he was not getting playing time for a while, and now the kids are up, and he's just as young as they are, basically. So bases loaded walk for Cabrera. You then do get a double play from DJ LeMahieu. So the Yankees are only up 2-0. Then in the 2nd, a leadoff walk by Severino to Abreu, and then a 2-run homer by Michael Brantley. So Michael Brantley, returns from injuries. That's his first home run of the season. He will be a key cog for the Astros the rest of the way here. A very good hitter in an already, very impressive Astro lineup, which is probably underperformed at this point. Certainly did in this series. So that makes it 2-2. And for Sevy, the Astros were fouling the fuck out of him. I think they fouled off 40 or 41 pitches, which was hadn't happened since 2013. There was some record there. It was insane. He threw a 40-pitch 2nd inning. And so he ends up only going, I'm jumping ahead, but he only ends up going 4 innings, throws 104 pitches. So, I mean, in some ways he kept he kind of grinded and kept the Yankees in it, but it was pretty... It wasn't a good outing for Severino. I know we want to kind of, there's a little beating around the bush when I think it comes to Sevy lately, but I thought it was a bad outing from him. But again, tough Astro lineup. Anyway, that made it 2-2, and it could have been worse, but he is able to get Jeremy Pena to hit into a double play, or it really could have been, he could have been out of the game in the 2nd inning, honestly. Aaron Judge responds with a home run off of Hunter Brown to make it 3-2, his 31st homer of the season. Then in the 4th, after a 1-out single by Brantley, Yainer Diaz homers. He hits a 2-run homer. It's his 20th homer of the season. He had also homered off of Sevy back at the stadium, earlier on. So that makes it 4-3 Astros. Sevy is able to get through those 4 innings. And then Johnny Brito ends up doing an excellent, excellent job out of the pen. And, I think that you're finding, and again, I'm jumping ahead, but Michael King, being a starter, I like that. I think that could work. And I think Brito being a bulk guy out of the bullpen, I think that could work too. Same with Vasquez, but again, I want those guys to ultimately be starters, but Brito specifically, I think that could be a good role for him. So anyway, Judge walks, then the key play of the game for me, Jasson Domínguez is up, and Mauricio Dubon with just a bad error. It wasn't going to be a double play. Domínguez has too much speed. But this should have been an out at second, and it just goes under the glove of Dubon. So Dubon, in for Abreu, doesn't do the job. So it's first and third. Judge getting over from first and third. Hunter Brown's out of the game. Phil Maton comes in, and he's almost able to navigate out of it. He does get Giancarlo Stanton to strike out. Then Volpe walks. So that was, a key at bat there. Bases loaded, 1 out. 2 strikes on Wells as well. I think it was a 1-2 count. Sac fly Austin Wells. So a nice at bat for Wells to tie the game in. And then, look, as much as Everson Pereira has not been good, he has had some nice hits and big hits. And here's one, an RBI single to give the Yankees a 5-4 lead. That's the game-winning hit. So really, all the kids really did contribute in their own way. Pereira didn't do much offensively, but he comes through with what would be the game-winning hit. Johnny Brito comes on and really just shuts it down. 1, 2, 3, 5th inning. 6th inning, there's a single to Kyle Tucker, but then he gets a double play of Abreu. In the 7th, he goes 1, 2, 3. Then the 8th, single Dubon, but then he gets Bregman to hit a double play. So he faces the minimum 11 batters, Johnny Brito does. So only 1 strikeout again. He doesn't have strikeout stuff, and that does concern me, but, he did the job. And then Wandy Peralta hits Yordan Alvarez, but then Kyle Tucker flies out. So lefty there. And then in the 9th, Clay Holmes comes on, and Clay has struggled lately, but looked a lot better in this series. With 2 out, it was another unfortunate fielding situation for Clay where Diaz hits a chopper and Clay doesn't field it correctly, so he needs to work on that. But you end up getting a situation where John Singleton pinch hits for McCormick, and Singleton strikes out looking to end the game, so the Yankees find a way. A game that the Yankees have not won recently. The Yankees, they've won a lot of those 6-2 sort of semi-lopsided games. They haven't won the close ones. That's one of them that they actually do win. They win 5-4. Now they go for the sweep. They go for the sweep against someone who has, really owned them in Christian Javier. Now, when they faced him at Yankee Stadium early in the season, they did well against him. But today, Javier was, through 5, was looking very, very good until the Yankees finally got to him in the 6th. And for Michael King, this was Michael King's first ever win as a starter in his major league career. I thought King was really good. He went 5 innings, which that's a good sign. 69 pitches, right? So King is being built up. 5 innings, 5 hits, only 1 earned run allowed, which was in the first inning. No walks and 4 strikeouts. Really solid quality stuff. And, like I said, the Astros take that early lead. Gleyber Torres returns to the lineup. Giancarlo Stanton would sit in this one, which allowed Judge to go to DH and Oswaldo Cabrera to play right field. In the first, you do get a sac fly by Kyle Tucker in a first and third 1-out spot, but that was all that the Yankees would allow. Then, through 5 innings, the Yankees only had 1 hit. Gleyber had a single in the 2nd inning. That was all. Then, in the 5th, I should mention that Austin Wells gets Mauricio Dubon caught stealing. So a nice throw by Wells again. I was pretty impressed by his defense because he's, the reputation is that he's an offensive first catcher, but I thought he did a nice job. I mean, we'll see what happens in September, but so far so good there. So the score remains 1-0. Then with 1 out, Oswaldo Cabrera singles, and then DJ LeMahieu hits an RBI double. DJ hit rockets in all 4 of his at-bats. Only is 1 for 4 to show for it. Hit a couple of shots to the warning track. But DJ with an RBI double on that play, Yordan Alvarez looked like he might have twisted an ankle or something. He stayed in the game. And so I guess he's okay, but it didn't look great initially. Then you get Aaron Judge striking out looking on the ump did a terrible job at bat, because in that at bat, he kind of gave Judge a couple of close pitches, but the strike 3, which should have been ball 4, way outside. Terrible job by the ump. And so now here's the spot. Jasson Domínguez, runner on second, 2 out, 1-1 in the 6th. What does he do? He homers. His 2nd homer of his career, 2nd in 3 games, and the Yankees take a 3-1 lead. This kid just seems calm, cool, collected. When he's out there, he kind of reminds me a little of Juan Soto, just a little bit. We have not seen him as a righty yet. And again, I think he's better as a lefty, which again is completely fine for this offense and Yankee Stadium. So 3-1 Yanks. Tommy Kahnle comes on, and for Tommy, he's been a little bit better very, very recently, but overall, it's been a little shaky. He does really well in this outing. He goes 1, 2, 3 in the 6th, and then in the 7th, goes 1, 2, 3 as well. So actually, 6 up, 6 down for Tommy Kahnle, which is good. Jose Urquidy would come on in the 8th, and goes 1, 2, 3 that inning. Then Loaiza gets in a little bit of trouble. Jonathan Loaiza in the 8th inning gives up a couple of singles, and so you get a first and second 1-out spot for Jose Altuve, and what happens? Loaiza gets the 1, 2, 3 double play. Loaiza makes a nice sort of Gleyber, and it was reminiscent to the last game versus the Tigers, where Velasquez's throw was a little bit off. I don't think it's fair to blame him. I think it was more on Glaber, but here, good throw. Everything was good, and the Yankees keep that 3-run lead. They get some insurance runs in the ninth. With one out, Glaber Torres just an absolute bomb. I think it was maybe close to 440 or so feet. Maybe 435. His 24th homer of the year. So Glaber, if he stays healthy, he might hit 30 this year. So again, Glaber Torres, as much as there's things that are bothersome with him offensively, it's been really, really good. Especially like since August. So anyway, 4-1 Yanks. Then Volpe singles. Then Austin Wells gets his first RBI hit. He had had a sac fly the day before, and this is his first extra base hit. RBI double Austin Wells, knocks in his buddy Volpe, makes it 5-1. And then with 2 out, Oswald Peraza with a RBI double. Caps off a nice few games for him. Makes it 6-1. And then Clay Holmes comes in the ninth. And I thought maybe, like, since it's a 5-run game, they'd go maybe to Middleton or something. Well, they bring in Holmes, and he gets the Astros at 1-2-3. And the Yankees sweep the Stros, who are battling it out in that 3-way AL West race. And you just can't make this stuff up. The Yankees go in there, and they sweep the Astros. They win the season series 5-2 against the Astros. So, it's too little too late for the Yankees, but exactly a little bit of revenge is nice. And at the end of the day, if it does negatively affect the Astros in the season, you got to like that. So now the Yankees come home and they will take on the Tigers and the Brewers. Now they just faced the Tigers in Detroit and had some good success against them. So we don't know who's pitching for the Tigers, probably a bullpen game type situation, similar to the third game of the series in Detroit versus Garrett Cole. So that same setup. Game 2 will be the same as Game 4 in Detroit. It'll be Matt Manning versus Clark Schmidt, a game in which Detroit won. And then Game 3 will be Eduardo Rodriguez, the lefty, former Red Sox pitcher, who I thought we might see last series but didn't, versus Carlos Rodon. So a southpaw battle there before the Yankees will then take on the Milwaukee Brewers, who that'll be a little bit more interesting from a playoff standpoint, where Milwaukee, we'll talk about them more in the next episode in the preview there, but they're in a battle with the Cubs. It's certainly, they got a nice little lead, but nothing too crazy. And we'll see if Josh Donaldson, but again, is activated for Milwaukee, but we'll save that because the Yankees are going to be taking on the Tigers next. And what will be exciting to see is the Yankee Stadium debuts for Jasson Domínguez and Austin Wells. So where it looked like you weren't really getting a whole lot of September juice, you're kind of getting it now. And so, it gives the fans good reason to tune in and to see what happens. And, I think that you got to think positively about this. Look, I think the overall picture and the overall operation of this team, I think is still very flawed, but the future could be bright in certain spots. And it definitely makes these final 25 games something to see as we look ahead to 2024. Again, Yankees, they're 1 game under 500. The low watermark, I believe, was 6. They were 62-68 at the end of the Rays series. Fast forward, 6-1 in the last 7. They're now 68-69. And so, look, we'll see whether they finish the season over 500 or not. They finished the road trip 7-3. And, they sweep the Houston Astros. It's something I didn't expect. But Jasson Domínguez showing he can be very special as he homers on his first swing of his major league career. And then for good measure, in the third and final game of the series, hits the big blow to give the Yankees the lead, earns the sweep versus the Astros, and he will come home to make his Yankee Stadium debut against the Detroit Tigers.